लीडरशिप कर्व द वेल्थ प्लेबुक। सो आज मैं रजदर बात करेंगे यूएस फेड रेट कट 0.25% की। नाउ बिफोर वी डू दैट, अगर हम पिछला एक साल देखें हाउ द मार्केट्स हैव गॉन एंड हम ये देखें पिछले एक हफ्ते में क्या हुआ है और 6 महीने में जो ट्रेड बैरियर्स को लेके जो पेसिमिज्म था मार्केट में, हाउ दैट हैज प्लेड अप। नाउ दो तीन चीजें जो इन्वेस्टर्स के पर्सपेक्टिव से जो हमें देखने को मिली हैं वो ये है कि many of the investors were waiting for market to correct and fall down so that they could make a entry into the market. Now ab vidambana ye hai ki the market has gone up by around 300 400 1000 points over past fortnight or more than that. However, now it is very difficult for those investors to be convinced to enter into the market. अब वो ये सोच के वेट करेंगे कि मार्केट अगली बार अगर 500 पॉइंट भी टूट गया या 600 पॉइंट भी टूट गया मैं एंटर करूंगा. So those are one set of investors. Now the second set of investors are कि जिन्होंने साल 2 साल पहले इन्वेस्ट किया और मार्केट ऊपर था, then the market started correcting and then they were disillusioned कि भाई पैसा नहीं बन रहा मार्केट में. So वो वेट कर रहे थे पैसा रिकवर हो जाएगा and I will exit. So what they did, market was recovering and they did exit. However, 20 दिन पहले जो रेट्स आए थे हमारे जीडीपी नंबर्स के, the GDP growth rate has been now above 7%. The investors are not looking at those fundamental levels. They are not looking at these fundamental levels that कि हम US Fed rate cut anticipate कर रहे थे for the last 1 year, which now formally has happened. Now अगर आप दो तीन ये स्ट्रक्चरल इंफॉर्मेशन नहीं सामने रखेंगे, you will never make money. तो इंसान कहता है ना कि इंसान अपनी किस्मत का पाता है. इससे बड़ी चीज मार्केट में, स्टॉक मार्केट के थ्रू पैसा बनाना इज अ प्योर टेस्टिमनी ऑफ द फैक्ट, जहां आप रियल टाइम देख सकते हैं कि हाँ इंसान अपनी किस्मत से ज्यादा नहीं बना सकता है, क्योंकि इंसान अपनी किस्मत पे खुद पानी फेर देता है. व्हाई? बिकॉज यू थिंक द मार्केट ऊपर आ गया, अब मैं कैश आउट करके निकल जाऊंगा. एट पार आ गया, 5-10% ऊपर पैसा आ गया, लेट मी सेल इट एंड लेट मी कम आउट ऑफ इट. नाउ यू शुड आस्क एज एन इन्वेस्टर, यू शुड आस्क योरसेल्फ, जब आप 1 साल 2 साल 3 साल मार्केट में आए थे, आप क्या सोच के आए थे कि आप 1 साल के लिए पैसा डालेंगे, 6 महीने के लिए पैसा डालेंगे, 2 महीने के लिए पैसा डालेंगे? अगर ये चीज थी, then you should not have ventured into the market, or if you didn't have the nerves of steel. Now the second question is, if you really had entered to make wealth, create wealth or generate wealth into the market, then obviously you have to be for the long haul game. You can't be a frog limping from one stone to the other stone at the end of the lake, you know. So therefore the point is, जो आज आपने मार्केट में देखा है, फिर 30 basis point cut and the market again going up, and now there are talks that the trade barriers or the issues, the contention between India and US will now be resolved in next couple of weeks. If that happens, we see market going up. However, अभी भी इंडियन मार्केट में हम देख रहे हैं कि they are still overvalued. तो अभी इस पॉडकास्ट पे जो मैं बात करूंगा, हम डिफरेंट एस्पेक्ट की बात करेंगे. रेट कट, उसका इम्प्लीकेशन इंडियन इकोनॉमी में, इंडियन इकोनॉमी की वैल्यूएशन, इन्वेस्टर्स क्या कर सकते हैं, हाउ द थिंग्स विल गो. बट however, whatever is there into the markets, my point is, as an investor, you should be pragmatic, clear, concise and knowledgeable enough to decide what to do. Now the irony of not entering into the market when the market has been down, and when the market goes up and then waiting ki bhai market niche aayega then I will enter, or to the second or the latter half of the investors who have invested have become disillusioned in just 6 to 8 months because they had been hearing कि 22-25-30% return साल का बनता है, and now they are booking profit and exiting out of it. Now the matter of fact is, when you are looking at different macroeconomic factors, पहली बात है कि ऐसा इन्वेस्टर्स को क्यों होता है? ऐसा इन्वेस्टर्स को इसलिए होता है when you have a mobile in your hand, you see charts, you see numbers, you hear TV, you have an illusion. You have an illusion of know it all. You have an illusion of know it all. Now, when the tide turns, मोमेंटम में तो होता है ना, मोमेंटम में जब नदी बह रही हो, गंगा बह रही हो, तो तब आपको सब कुछ बह जाता है, उसमें कूड़ा कचरा सब बह जाता है. इट इज व्हेन द वेव्स सेटल डाउन, जब वो लहरें नीचे उतर जाती है, तो पता चलता है हमाम में कौन नंगा है, कौन चड्डी पहन के. सो देयरफॉर द मैटर ऑफ फैक्ट हियर इज व्हाई इन्वेस्टर्स रन आउट ऑफ द मार्केट when the market has recovered, only because of the fact they are not confident about the macroeconomics, how the markets pan out, how the currencies, commodities, interest rate cycles, debt equity cycles work, how different sectors correlate into it. A stock which might still be at 50 PE is giving good returns, whereas the stock which is into 20 PE is not giving returns when you have a short-term horizon or a long-term horizon, and how you need to position your positions across various sectors, and that too still in relation to your broader asset allocation mix and your financial responsibilities. So while we say that, अब हम मेन स्टोरी पे आते हैं कि यहां पे अभी मार्केट में हुआ क्या है. मार्केट में यह है कि 25 बेसिस पॉइंट, यस, अराउंड 25 बेसिस पॉइंट का रेट कट हुआ है जो यूएस ने किया है. फेयर एनफ. निफ्टी 50 पे क्या असर पड़ा है? निफ्टी 50 में अगर हम देखते हैं 93 पॉइंट्स का जंप आया है. सेंसेक्स आज नियरली आप पकड़ लो 350 पॉइंट ऊपर गया था, समझ लीजिए 320 पॉइंट के आसपास गेन्स पे वो क्लोज हुआ है. अगर हम गोल्ड की बात करते हैं, गोल्ड नियरली 27% इस ईयर में, ईयर टिल डेट प्रॉफिट पे. सो व्हाट डज दिस मीन? दिस मीन्स दैट the gold will still maintain its inflation hedge. That is point number one. Now, therefore, the policy shifts always lead to portfolio shifts. What does this mean? Whenever there is a policy shift, whether that policy shift is done by the Monetary Policy Committee report in India or the monetary policy has been changed in the US. Why? Because when the rate cut has happened, it will lead to the transfer of money or the flow of money from the global markets to the Indian markets or some other jurisdictions. Now, you as an investor have to figure out where it will happen. So therefore, in this first segment, we understand that whenever the policy shifts happen, you need to shift and curate your portfolio, or you need to at least refer back to your portfolio and see whether that is still in sync or valid as per the current policy changes or not. Now, the segment 2 comes is why this US rate cut is so much important for Indian investors. It is very important because, like I said, that there is a liquidity transmission. Now more and more money will coming into India because there will be higher interest rates in the emerging markets than in developed markets. Now, while this will happen, there will also be a currency impact. We will be seeing rupee not getting too much weaker and at least having some strength. And the most important point is, with RBI will also be now having some of the leeway or bandwidth to cut another 25 basis point over the next 2 months. Maybe by October we can expect that, or lately by December, because Indian inflation was already into check. The GDP growth rate had been high. The only concern that Indian markets had कि भाई इंडिया से पैसा बाहर चला जाएगा because बाहर already higher interest rate है, plus they also have a currency appreciation or a stronger currency factor. So therefore many of the institutions or FIIs were moving out. However, now because of this policy realignment, we might see money coming in, and because the Indian government or RBI would also be looking to reduce the repo rate. If they reduce it, it might sustain. However, India is never the first port of the call. So what does this mean? Because the Indian markets are still very expensive, that might be the reason why the FIIs had been earlier cashing out and lightening their cushions. Now since in US अगर वहां पे रेट कम हो रहा है तो उनको अपना पैसा कहीं ना कहीं तो लगाना होगा, तो वो कहां जाएगा? वो पैसा हो सकता है मोस्ट प्रोबेबली चाइना हैंग सेंग इंडेक्स में जा सकता है, वो आपका से फॉर एग्जांपल कोरियन मार्केट्स में जा सकता है. So we have to see that where that money actually goes and where that money actually gets invested into. So therefore, all these things have to be taken into consideration. Just because US has reduced its rate of interest doesn't mean that entire money or much of the money or FII flows will still be into the market. So therefore, what is there for Indian investors? So when we look at Indians, there are the three categories or the roles we are looking at. There are Indian investors, there are Indian borrowers, there are Indian savers. So when we look at borrowers, we know that those who had their home loans linked with EBLR would see the immediate impact of the rate cut when that we are looking at expected to be happening in India. When those who are having their home loans linked to the MCLR might still have some delay into it. But however, the reduction in last time had actually led to the lowering of EMIs and other outflow by around $3,600 for a 50 lakh home loan. When we look at the equity investors, obviously there will be, if the rate cut happens in India, we might expect more fund coming in, but that does not guarantee the returns in the market. Reason being, it also has to be seen where Indian markets are valued. Are they overvalued? Because that has to be seen in perspective of the expected growth we are expecting this quarter. So if there is a single digit growth or the growth is not happening, then we might not see that flow that FIs might be looking to put their money into India. So when we look at the debt investors, or you can say the fixed income investors, the more of the traction, because there will be softening of the yields happening. So it will be better and prudent to consider medium duration bonds, and the rate, because there would be range bound or the short term or bullish. What happens when the interest rate goes down? The medium to long term bonds give better returns. We have seen this is 2019 when it happened in the US. The only thing is that you have to have medium to long term horizon to make that capital gains on your secondary bonds case. The target maturity funds are one more avenue where an investor can look forward to. Gold can still be there in the portfolio as an inflation hedge. There is no denying fact in it. And if you are an FD investor or a fixed deposit sort of investor, and the rates already in US have come down, and which might be mimicked in India by the RBI, taking into advantage of monsoon and inflation and all those GDP numbers and the US rate cut, then it is prudent to have a laddered approach to the fixed deposits and make sure you are logged in for some real returns onto that. Now, in 2019, हमने देखा था कि there was the last interest rate easing cycle that was done by the US Fed. And when it happened, 5 to 7 year duration bonds or funds in India had given very good returns and exceptional returns. But those guys, those investors who waited, they never made money because they waited on the sidelines. So this is another such opportunity where we are seeing the softening of the yields, rate cut in the US market. So between 5 to 7 year bonds you can consider to invest into and still gain much of the returns on it. So what does this mean? This means that 25 basis point rate cut gives an opportunity for investors to reposition, realign your portfolio. Now, over the last 1 year, we have seen that markets had went down till April. From April, they recovered back. Now, all those global issues with regard to trade barriers and everything have been taken into consideration and have now being addressed, and we see just only 1 month from now where all these contentions will be settled down. But once it happens, the markets might shoot, and there might be certain value sections or value stocks, or you say unidentified opportunities which might see a swing. There might be export related industries where might be swing could be seen. However, while this happens, you should be ready with your portfolio. You should be ready what your investing style has to be and whether it fits in your investing psyche, asset allocation, your financial goals, and the timelines by which you need money. So therefore, in this Wealth Playbook podcast, the leadership curve, our objective is to unwind and uncover such macroeconomic policy changes and then provide you an insight and a guidance to how to approach all these things. And you can go through all these leaderships podcast on our Apple podcast. Then you can go to Spotify, YouTube, so on and so forth. So thank you so much, and reach out to us in case of any guidance. Take care.